This is a tier list that is entirely based on getting the biggest house possible. It's not really about reaching room 46, and we're going to do our best to not give extra spoilers because most rooms do have some extra secrets and fun things to figure out yourself. So again, this is really aimed at newer players who are maybe feeling frustrated and just want to see the biggest house so that they can start solving puzzles right away. So I'm Scoutmaster Demi. I was a playtester for this game, but I'm joined by my friend Shagraz, who is a head playtester. What's the hoop, Shagraz?
Oh, what's the hoop, Sitches?
Ledge. Let's just start off right here with the Aquarium. It does cost 1 gem, but it's a T-shape in that it's got 2 extra pathways from it, and it counts as every single type of a room. Shagraz, what do you think about Aquarium?
Aquarium's good. It's a T-shape. T-shapes are amazing. Yeah, I think it's a very good room to draft. It does cost a gem, which is a pretty big downside.
Yeah, the gem is unfortunate, especially like early on. You probably look at Aquarium and you're like, what the heck? Why would this ever be worth it? As you'll see, there are other rooms in this list. And of course, there are rarer rooms that we're not covering. This is only covering the commonplace rooms and the standard rooms. But there are other rooms that care about having bigger quantities of other types of rooms, in which case Aquarium does get better. I think even with the 1 gem cost, I think I would still put it in A, but I wonder if you have any opinions on that.
I think I wouldn't be remiss to put an A, but I feel like it's probably a high B tier room with the gem cost, especially with not doing too much for you, like right off the bat.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough with me. We'll throw it in B for now. 1 gem is a cost for sure. There's no doubt about that. Next up is the bedroom. It only moves in an L shape. It is a purple bedroom named after the archetype. Whenever you enter it, you gain 2 steps, which means that it basically nets you even every time you go into it. Yeah, so bedroom, what do you think about this?
Bedroom, secretly really good room, I think. You put it in the really high traffic area and it just saves you a lot of steps. It's not really too flashy. It's a bedroom. It saves you steps, continues on, and there's sometimes items in it. Not all the time. It's a decent chance. I would probably go A for this.
A seems high to me because I was thinking, because you're right, there is certainly a not so flashy element for sure. I think steps start to really matter when you start to care about them, and then they don't matter as much when you don't. But I feel like 1 pathway from it is not the most exciting. I was thinking B tier myself.
You should not be afraid to waste steps, and this kind of helps you get over your fears. I think it's an A. Could be high B, but it's a pretty secretly really good room. But not a lot of bedrooms continue. There's not a lot of bedrooms that have an extra door like an L. So
that's a really good point. Most bedrooms are kind of dead ends. I guess Boudoir too, but
Boudoir.
Yeah. And Boudoir is just worse than bedroom because you're not getting any value out of this. Yeah, I think let's put it high B because I think you're right. If there's one thing we can encourage newer players, it's don't be afraid to go backward. Steps don't really matter, right? Like steps probably matter more like mid to late game when you're trying to pull off some crazier stuff.
And there will be some times where it does matter, but you shouldn't take that as like gospel of, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done it, because there's going to be so many days where you're wasting a lot of steps, or you're not using steps, and you should be to like get other stuff.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially when you're trying to figure out like puzzles and really just examine rooms too. All right, next up is the billiard room, which is a puzzle piece. It is a puzzle that you can solve. We won't tell you how to solve it, but opening up this guarantees you either 2 keys or a special key, which is very helpful in terms of moving. So yeah, Shagraz, what do you think of the billiard room?
Billiard room is insane. 1 room that gives you 2 keys, which is the usual payout, is amazing. It does come with a caveat that you need to know how to solve the puzzle. Puzzle's not too difficult, and there's a lot of hints around that will help you. I think it's easy S for this one.
Yeah, because again, you need keys, right? I would say all resources are important to a degree. My personal opinion is that keys are the most important. Gems are like a little bit less than that, but still very good too. Because keys are that's just how you open up, right? So giving you 2 or a special key is just how you're gonna like actually draft into the more northern ranks of the game. Yeah, billiard room, extremely good. All right, next up is Boudoir, very much similar to the bedroom, but with no extra text on it. Now, there is a chance of getting an item in the Boudoir. It does continue. It's not a dead end, but maybe not the most exciting. What do you think, Shagraz?
It's just a bedroom that's doing less work. So I think it's easy C tier.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not great. It's just kind of okay.
Yeah. Next up is Chapel. This is our first red room on the list. All red rooms have some sort of downside to them. This is a T-shape. Every time you enter it, you lose 1 coin. I personally love the Chapel. I'm a big, big fan of it. I'd love to hear what you think, Shagraz.
Chapel is amazing. I've seen a lot of new players, I think, really hate this room because they really don't like losing money. But you got to spend money to make money. So as they say, a free tea room that basically has no downside because, like, how often are you really buying stuff in the early game? Not too often. I could see easy S or A.
No, I'm thinking S myself because I feel the same way as you. Losing a coin probably feels really bad to, as you said, new players. Losing any resource doesn't feel great, but coins are definitely like the freest of the resources. One coin is not that bad. Sure, you might lose a few as you enter here and there, but to me, it's basically a free T-shaped room. Again, considering that we put the aquarium at B, which is very similar, but the fact that it costs you a gem, that's the difference right there, right? I will give coins any day of the week effortlessly to have the ability to save my gems for more special rooms or for higher ranks when you really need to be building. I love the chapel. I'm always drafting it. I'm never afraid of it. So yeah, I think a great S tier there. All right, next up is the closet.
I say don't be afraid of dead ends. Put them down, especially like decently early. 2 items early could save you a lot of headache later. I think easy B rank.
I love the closet. Just as you said, I feel like it's extremely common, so you're always going to see it like on the first ranks. Dead ends are really interesting, right? Because the more that you draft, like if you have a bigger room and you're drafting properly, you can position them in great spots so that you don't need to see them later on as you're drafting throughout the day. I would argue it's vitally important to drop your closet early on just so that you don't see it later on as the day progresses. For that reason alone, I think you pretty much have to draft it most days. It's so common, you're easily going to see it. 2 items are great. I might put a little higher than B. I kind of like A, but also I think the fact that it is a dead end and there are other ways to get resources, I think B is probably pretty fair.
That's how you get the resources to keep going, like more gems, more keys, some coins, other items. So you want to be drafting it. It can hurt you later, especially if you don't draft it. So I think B is good.
Next up is the coat check. This is a dead end that is basically a tomorrow room, and that you get value out of it the next day. You can take one of your items and store it for future use. What do you think of the coat check?
I think it's a decent room. It really promotes like thinking about the future. So that's good. But if for like in a run where you're like looking to get as far as you can, it basically does nothing. I don't know. I think it's a C tier. You want to draft it sometimes, especially if your day's looking bad. And if you have a good spot for it, it's good to draft to just get it out of your draft pool.
Strictly speaking, if we're just going for biggest rooms of the day, being a tomorrow room means it's like you're not going to get any value out of it that day. I'm personally pretty high on it though. I will say there is a caveat here. The item that you store in the coat check is not going to be accessible on future runs. Like you can't get 2 sledgehammers, for example, right? If you put your sledgehammer, the only way to retrieve it again is to get it from the coat check. So there's some weird uses that are maybe not the most exciting. But once you start getting rarer items, you are definitely going to be happy with a coat check. That's going to help you continue to use it throughout your runs, which I think is very, very valuable. And then another really great use of the coat check, in my opinion, is storing away a lucky rabbit's foot, which is one of the best items in the game. It just raises the luck of you encountering other items too. But items are how you win, right? Items are tremendously helpful, and the more of them, the better. So there's some really cool use of coat check. I think it's better than C. I'm basically always happy to see a coat check, but that's because I always keep powerful items in it.
I just think it does not really that much. Yeah, if you have a really powerful item in there, it's going to help. But sometimes you see it later and okay, like you put a shovel in there. Yeah, you see it later, but then you don't have the steps to go back and dig up every dirt spot. So it's pretty situational. I don't know. I don't think it's like that great.
I can see your points too. It's kind of do nothing, and it very much depends on what item you put in it, right?
Yeah.
That's really
it's really feast or famine. And there's either like the first time you draft it, it basically does nothing, and like you have to have a good item that day, or it also does nothing. Like I just started a new file, like the best thing I had to put in there was a coupon book, and yeah, it was not that great.
And I think, frankly, too, C tier is probably for stuff like this that are situational, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not bad. Like a Boudoir is definitely not a bad room, but it's not something that you're just going to be excited about starting off. So again, coat check, I'll rest. I think coat check and C is totally fine. Just know that it will get a lot better for you if you have valuable things like a lucky rabbit's foot or rarer items that will really benefit from that. All right, next up is the commissary. This is one way to buy items. It does cost you a gem. What do you think about the commissary?
Commissary is good on if you have gold, which is hard to get early. So I think it's not the best, honestly. I think it's a C tier. It costs a gem, and most times you're not going to have enough to buy anything. So it's just kind of nothing. It's just a gem L room. I don't know. I could even see F, but I think it's the fact that it's an outlet to spend gems, which is normally hard to find. I think it bumps it up to a C.
Early on, money isn't that easy to grab, and you shouldn't really be so attached to money. If you are upset about the chapel because you think you can buy something great from the commissary, you probably have it mixed up. You should probably focus on just entering rooms better and not so much the money outlets. I think a C is very fair for the commissary.
Yeah, the more rooms you open up by prioritizing gems and keys, the more likely that you just find these items that you could buy anyways. So
Totally.
another reason why I think chapel is pretty good to draft.
Now, I will say, I think if you're spending your money, you're probably better off spending it at the commissary than you are at the kitchen. But I would say kitchen is probably a similar tier as well. I think they're pretty equivalent. All right, next up is the corridor. This is a hallway with a special caveat. It is always unlocked. What do you think about the corridor?
All right, corridor I have a weird relationship with because whenever I see it, I dislike it. But it's very similar to the spare room, which I love the spare room. And it's just better than the spare room. So I don't know why I have such an aversion to it.
I think it's one of those effects where you see it and you're like, oh, this is going to be incredible, like in rank 5 or 6 or 7, because those rooms are way more likely to be locked. So you're like, wow, this is amazing. But you oftentimes just end up seeing it way earlier than that.
Yeah,
you kind of growing a little bit. You're like,
it's a commonplace room, so you see it really early. You don't want to draft it early because you want to get its effect later, but you just end up drafting it early. It's a good room. It's a straight shot. There's not a lot of straight shots. Sometimes you need one. I think it's pretty good.
Similarly to what you were just saying, don't get so hung up on that ability. That ability is amazing if you can actually pull it off in rank 5, 6, or 7 or whatever. But if you have to draft it early, you have to draft it early, right? That's not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's more like if you think of it more of a spare room with added benefits sometimes, that's kind of how you want to look at it.
Yeah, I think it's a B tier. That's my take.
Yeah, easy B tier.
All right. The next up is the courtyard. This is a green room, so it's gardening related, and it is a T-shape that does cost a gem. What do you think about the courtyard, Chugwas?
So it's pretty similar to the aquarium as it's a T-shape that costs a gem, and it's a green room, but you're way more likely to see dig spots here, and you're way more likely to see like an item of some sort. So I really love the courtyard. I think it's an amazing room. I think you should draft it, especially if you can get both door uses out of it. It's incredible. I think it's an easy A rank, honestly.
No, I'm so with you. The item chances are way better. Being a T-shape is incredible. And yes, one gem does hurt. We talked about that with the aquarium. That does hurt. But honestly, if you're going to be spending gems, you want to be spending it on rooms that are going to give you items and help you keep building. It does both of those things at the same time.
You're not guaranteed an item, but you have a really good shot at seeing an item in this room. And a really good item most times.
Yeah. That's true. You're not going to get something weak there. You'll get something pretty relevant. Okay, next up is the dark room. This is another red room. It literally turns dark when you enter it. If you try to draft rooms out of it, you cannot see what the options are. You are just going to pick something randomly. What do you think of the dark room, Shugros?
Dark room, another free tea room, which I love free tea rooms. I think they're incredible. They're amazing. Now, dark room is very similar to the chapel. It's a free tea room that has a downside, but unlike the chapel, not being able to see what you draft out of it is a pretty big downside. I still think it's amazing. I would still probably drop this in A tier.
Yeah, I think A is exactly the spot. Like, it's not quite S tier. I would easily give up coins over rooms. That's not even a close comparison, but it's not that bad because one, you can mitigate it with another that we'll see earlier, which is a very obvious combo. And then two, just having the ability to have a free tea room without spending your resources is still good. And honestly, there are times when you draft in the blind and like you'll get there. It's not like the best strategy. I wouldn't recommend it to newer people. You can still pull things off out of it. In fact, it's thrilling for that purpose. But again, it is a red room. So, as long as you can mitigate its downsides, I think you'll be really happy with it.
If it's like your last room that you're like hoping to chain off of, it's not the best. You're pretty down to die. But if you draft it early and you're just down for some dead ends or some not so optimal stuff, it just lets you see more stuff. If you draft 2 dead ends from it, whatever, you get some nice items probably, and you get those dead ends out of your deck.
That's a really good point.
It's a really good early tea room.
Yeah, that's a really good point. An early tea room, right? Because you can assess the damage a lot quicker, right? Yeah. Like you can build around that. Hopefully, this is not your one spot that you're building out of. If that's the case, then you're probably better off picking a different room, and that's in that case. But you're right. An early dark room is very good. All right, next up is Den. This is a T-shape. It doesn't cost a gem, it gives you a gem. What do you think about the den?
Free T-shape that gives you a gem is like we like to call it in the playtesting realm. OP Den. OP Den, easily probably the best room. Easy S rank. Probably number one. Not close.
Yeah. Oh, it's all about OP Den. It's exactly right. You nailed it. Gives you a resource. Free T-shape. Yeah, it's great. Also, just side note, I love the ambiance of the den quite a bit. I love the fireplace. I love just like being in it. Feels nice and cozy. It always brings a smile to my face when I draft it because I know that I am doing really well. All right, next up is the dining room. This is another free T-shaped room. Does not cost you anything. And there's a special effect. Once you reach rank 8, which is to say rooms that are on the 8th row going north, you can come back to the dining room and you can eat a meal that will give you 20 steps and occasionally a little extra more steps than that. What do you think about the dining room?
Another free tea room. What more is there to say with an upside? Now a lot of times you're gonna get the upside, and you obviously want to draft this later, so you don't have to walk back to it as much. But it's even fine to walk all the way back and just take a dinner later. Free tea room. I think S rank easily.
Yep, absolutely.
Easily S rank.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just better than the chapel.
And I often find myself running low on steps, and then the dining room shows up, and it's my goodness, like there we go. Like we find like 20 is just enough to like give you that extra push to finish out your day.
Exactly.
And heaven forbid you get the plus 30. That's like icing on the cake for sure. So yeah, dining room, very good. All right, next up is the drawing room. This is yet another T-shape, although this one does cost you a gem, but there's an extra upside. When you draft rooms from the drawing room, you get one free reroll to spin and see 3 new room options. What do you think of the drawing room?
Drawing room, another tea room. As we love the tea rooms. It does cost a gem, which I think probably has to bump it down from the S tier to A tier. I could see some people liking it a lot and putting it into S tier. It really helps you really pick what room you want, like going out, so you can really get like it can bail you out of tough spots. It's kind of the opposite of a dark room. Like you love to see this as your last room, so you can really just like figure out like how to play the rest of your run. But it does cost a gem, which is prohibitive pretty early. I think A rank.
Yeah, I think A is great, especially when you consider some courtyard similarities. Less likely to get an item. In fact, I don't even know if you can get an item in the
You
room.
can. It's unlikely though, yeah.
Very unlikely. But yeah, the re-rolling is great. A really awesome effect. I know there's a lot of players, sometimes they'll solve a puzzle and all they want is to see that room again. So they're really loving the drawing room for an extra chance. And really an extra 2 chances, right? Or even an extra 4 chances, depending on your math of how you're building from it. Being able to re-roll is incredible. A really great room. All right, next up is the East Wing Hall. This is a hallway. It's a T-shape. No gems, no nothing. It's just a T-shape. What do you think about the East Wing?
East Wing Hall, another T-shape. It is East Wing Hall, so you can only get it on the East rank. Because for that reason, I'd probably put it in an A rank other than S rank. But if you see this, you should probably draft it. It opens up it keeps going forward, and it'll open up some other doors. I don't know.
Yeah.
Tea room.
I'm tempted to put it in an S just because you probably always want to draft it when you see it.
Yeah, I could see S rank.
You're not guaranteed it. You have to draft in a certain way to see it, which can make it a little bit more unwieldy for newer players. But again, a free T-shape, that's excellent, right? That's some good stuff right there. And very flavorful. I like the thematic appeal of the East Wing Hall. Okay, next up is the greenhouse. This is a dead-end room that does cost you a gem. When you draft it, you are more likely to see other green rooms. What do you think of the greenhouse?
The greenhouse it's a tough one. It's a dead end that costs a gem, which is pretty prohibitive. I don't like it too much early. The green rooms are good, but they are really gem intensive. So if you don't have a lot of gems, seeing a lot of green rooms is kind of hurt you. I don't know. I don't think it's that great. I hesitate to put it in F. I don't think it's that bad. If there was a D tier, I'd probably slam it in D tier. But you can get some good items in this room. So it's like a closet that costs a gem. And if you have a lot of gems, it's really good because you'll see a lot of green rooms, and green rooms are usually pretty good, but they are gem intensive, like I said. So.
Yeah, I feel the same as you. It's definitely like bottom of C tier. There are uses for it, but again, I think spending a gem on a dead end is not really what you want to be doing, especially early on the game if you're a newer player trying to make heads or tails of what's going on. And the fact that you still have to pay a gem for each of these green rooms means you need to have a lot of gems for the greenhouse to really be worth it for you. Yeah, I agree. I think if we had space for a D tier, that's probably a good spot for it. I think bottom of C is probably fine as well. All right, next up is the guest bedroom. This is a bedroom. It's a dead end. It gives you plus 10 steps. What do you think of it?
Okay, this one is, I like the guest bedroom. The question is, how good is it really? It's 10 steps, which is a lot of steps for one room. It's a dead end, so that's not the best. But it really helps backtracking, which I really like to do, and I really recommend people to do. So I do like it. I do think it's a pretty good room, and there's a good chance there's an item in it. Not as likely as other rooms, but it's pretty like high odds, I would say.
Yeah. The funny thing about guest bedroom is it's like a +8 because you it does take you a step to like go in and to trigger it and to leave. Bedrooms are cool. There are some build around me, so they're always nice for that reason. As you said, there's a decent chance of an item. It's not really my favorite room, but there definitely are days where I'm just looking for ways to get more steps because I'm backtracking like crazy. And again, we've said this a few times, but as newer players, don't be afraid to backtrack. In fact, you very much want to be doing that. So if this can help enable you to do, that's pretty good. I'm not super high on the guest bedroom. I would put it in C personally, but
I would put it in CC mostly, but I think putting it in B is good to help players like draft it more, which gives them more steps, gives them more confidence to go back. I don't know. I think it's a low B, high C. I could put it in C, but I like putting it in B, but up to you.
let's go low B. Why not? You're right. It is good to encourage people to not be afraid of it.
You draft it early, you get the plus 10 steps, and then it's not as flashy because you're like, oh, I have so many steps. It doesn't do anything. But if you get it later, you really notice it. When you go from like 8 to 18, it's like, oh, wow, that was really good.
And a decent chance of an item.
Like just under half, I would say.
All right, next up is the gymnasium, another red room. Every time you enter it, you lose 2 steps. So it's the opposite of the bedroom in some ways, but it is a T shape. What do you think of the gym?
Free T-shaped room. What more is there to say? It's really good. Now, it's definitely worse than the chapel because it
Steps are always relevant, right? There are oftentimes coins aren't that relevant.
Yeah, like steps will just having 0 coins is not likely to lose you the day, but having 0 steps will lose you the day. So it's definitely worse than the chapel. It's not as free as it sounds because you lose 2, and I think you also lose 1 for entering, so it's -3. It's pretty bad downside, but not like terrible. I think it's A. I think it's A tier still. It's a free T room. The downside is enough that I think you can not put it in S tier, but it's a free T shape.
Yeah, that's for sure. And again, if we're ranking the guest bedroom higher, I think gymnasium, obviously being able to spend your steps in that way is a really good thing. It's solid. I also feel like there's a pretty good chance you'll find running shoes in there. So there's some
yeah, there are some good items you can get in there. Pretty okay chance.
Yeah, which is nice, especially for a red room. And in fact, you can even mitigate the downside of the gym too. There's another fun use in the future. All right, so let's go to the hallway right here.
Free T shape, nothing fancy. S. You kind of want to be drafting this a lot. Now, I will say the caveat with this is I'm pretty sure it's commonplace. So you want to save this for a really good spot because you're really likely to see it. And since it doesn't give you immediate stuff like the den, you don't have to feel like you need to draft it right away to grab the gem to do stuff. So I think it's good to hold on to it if you don't need it, if there's another room that works to save you later on.
As a caveat, like for us, an S tier doesn't necessarily mean, okay, you're just going to slam it in that spot absolutely no matter what. You do want to be cognizant of the location of where you're putting your rooms.
But you can't go wrong drafting this.
Yeah, if you're building early from the wings, which you should be doing, you should definitely start your day going from the west and the east before you start going north. Even in those worlds, right? Like you can drop 2 dead ends and like you can save yourself a lot of hassles. Yeah, I think hallway's really good. Do be careful, as we were just saying, but yeah, extremely good. T-shapes are the bread and butter of a successful day. And next up is the kitchen. It is like the commissary in that it costs you a gem. It's a coin outlet. You buy food, which gives you steps, of course. Exact same shape as the commissary. What do you think of the kitchen?
Kitchen is very similar to commissary where it costs a gem for an L shape, which is not the best. I will say I like it better than the commissary actually, because it does give you something to do with money and it's cheaper. Like you can always get bananas there and the bananas cost 2, I think. And you can get like up to 5 or so. So at least you have outlets for like the little spare coins you have. And steps, a little extra steps here and there really help you. So I actually like it better than the commissary, especially early on. I think it's B tier because of that. I could see a high C tier, but
yeah, I still think it's C personally. I don't know. That's an interesting point about them being cheap enough that it's always relevant to some degree. But again, spending a gem and like steps are nice, but I don't know that they're so nice that like they're on the same.
It's nice having a kitchen, especially if you're like doing that big day and you're like, okay, I'm out of steps. What do I do? But it's nice to have a kitchen somewhere in your house where you're like, oh, I can go spend all my money and just get a bunch of steps.
True. And for what it's worth, that like morning breakfast or whatever, being able to add some stuff for the next day, I think is a cool thing as well. Again, though, I don't know. I feel like it's still C tier personally.
I could see a high C. I think it's B, but up to you.
Let's go top of C, I guess. Next up is the laboratory. This costs you a gem. It does move in an L shape, and you get access to experimental lab features. What do you think of the laboratory?
Laboratory is a gem that you only get an L shape. Other than the experiments, you can see some There's some items in here which are pretty good items you can get every now and then. If you don't count the experiments, it's like a bad room, but the experiments are really powerful. And not only that, they're really fun. I think you should be drafting this almost every time you see it. The gem is really prohibitive, but this is like what you want to be spending your gems on.
Yeah, I'm with you, especially because, as you said, it's not only so fun to have laboratory experiments, but oftentimes those can just give you resources that you need to win a day, or they even give your day a meaning, right? Like oftentimes, especially when you're a new player, you're just fumbling around, right? You're just opening up doors, you're seeing new rooms, you're taking notes of stuff, maybe solving some puzzles here and there. But it's really cool that with a lab, it gives you a goalpost. Okay, but today's the day I want to eat apples. Every time I eat an apple, I get $4 or something. So it's cool that it gives a little extra theme. And I'm with you. I think if you can swing the gem, it's a really great gem. Not only is it moving you forward, it's not a dead end, but it can give you resources. And if nothing else, it's just a lot of fun. Yeah. What do you think? Where do you think the lab should go?
I don't know if I really.
I think A.
It's probably S, but for newer players, I'd probably put it in A. Yeah. If all you care about is like seeing the bigger house, it's A tiers, I think is where it's at.
Absolutely. Have a lot of fun with those experiments. Oh, all right. We got the lavatory, not the laboratory. This is a red room and it's a dead end.
What more can you say? It's a dead end that does nothing. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. No, you can't get worse than that.
With the caveat that if there is a dead end spot and this is like the best dead end that you can draft there, you should draft it so you don't need it anymore. But as a room as a whole, it's kind of just there to like hurt you. So you want to get it out of your pool in a good spot, but it just does nothing. It's not good.
Yeah, it's funny to think of this compared to the hallways where we were just saying earlier, yeah, they're extremely great. You're always happy to see them, but be very careful where you put them, right? There's a lot of good uses that you want to be using them for rather than just like throwing them willy-nilly. And exactly as you just said, if you can drop the lavatory in a dead end spot, go for it. It's obviously an F. You're not happy to do it, but get it out of your deck so that you can move forward and more north without any fear.
That is to say, if you have a good dead end spot and your choices,
true,
closet and lavatory, there's no reason to pick the lavatory over the closet.
Absolutely.
Pick the closet, get your items. It's only if there's nothing else.
1000%.
You're in a corner lavatory in like some L rooms or a T room. The lavatory, get it out of there.
Yeah, it's F for a reason, for sure. All right, next up is the Nook. This is an L shape that gives you a key. What do you think of the Nook?
Ooh, Nook is very powerful. An L shape just keeps your day going. Keys are so strong. I think it's amazing. I think you should put it in S tier.
I'm with you. It's like a billiard room. I said it's like a little less exciting. You get less resources in terms of it being one key as opposed to two or a special one, but it's very similar. And heck, if you don't know how to solve the billiards room, I mean, you're going to be really happy to see the Nook anyways. Yeah, keys are extremely important. That's just where it's at. Yeah, if you go through a day without drafting a Nook, you're probably not going to go very far because you're not going to have the keys to continue going north. So yeah, you absolutely want to be putting your Nooks down. It's great. Next up is the Nursery. This does cost a gem. It is a dead end. Every time you draft another bedroom, which is to say a purple room, you gain +5 steps. What do you think of the Nursery?
Nursery, a dead end that costs a gem. We're back to this thing. That is to say, I think it's really strong. It might be the only dead end that I will put in S tier, but I think it's easily S tier. Its effect is really powerful. You draft this, you basically don't have to worry about steps for the rest of the day. And that is so strong. Just like you can backtrack like crazy. You can do whatever you want. And even then you still have decent amount of steps. It turns on all your rooms. It makes your boudoir better. It makes your guest bedroom better. It makes your bedroom better. It makes your aquarium. Like this is one of the reasons why you would want to draft an aquarium. It just turns everything on, turns all your lower tier bedrooms into amazing rooms. That is to say, if you draft this late, it does kind of nothing. But if you see this early on, I think it's amazing. I think you draft it. It's one resource you don't have to worry about for the rest of the day because you will just get a lot of steps.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, I think S is maybe like a little high because it is a dead end. You're not wrong. Basically, infinite steps is pretty helpful. I'm kind of leaning A myself, just because I feel like there were a lot of days where you can get by just fine without doing any crazy step stuff. If you're spending a few coins at the kitchen or you're getting your dinner room, I don't think you need to go Nursery. Like this is not like a make or break kind of room. I think you can do just fine without it. But that's my take.
Yeah, and I could see putting an A just because if you see it later, it does nothing and it's just bad in that scenario. But if you see it early, I think you just always draft it because you don't know how your day early. You don't know how your day is going to be fleshing out, and then you don't have to worry about like a kitchen. You don't have to ever draft a kitchen. You don't have to waste a gem on that. It turns all your rooms like it makes all your bedrooms just half of a guest bedroom, which is like including that room, and you're really likely to see a pretty decent item in the nurseries.
Yeah, that's true. The item is nice.
It's like a half closet that has an upside. I don't like a really good upside.
And to your credit, even though there's a lot of days where you don't really need to worry about steps, there are some days where you're building in really interesting ways. And so being able to move totally freely throughout your house without absolutely any repercussions is pretty nice. Yeah, I think A is fine. I think
I think high A. I think
yeah.
like it's S. So like,
Wow, I guess so. I guess you do think that highly. Yeah. There is a lot of strength to having all those steps. All right, next up is the observatory. This is an L-shaped room with a small puzzle. It's pretty easy, but there is a puzzle in there. And you get a star every time you enter it, or rather, every time you utilize it after solving the puzzle. What do you think of the observatory?
it costs a gem, so that's an L shape that costs a gem is not the best, but the upside is pretty good. It takes a little while to get really good effect out of the observatory, but the fact that the more you draft it, the better it is. You want to be drafting it whenever you see it, and this is one of the reasons you have gems for rooms like this. I think it's really strong. I think A.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think the other upside of a room like the observatory is, you see a lot of like people online who maybe have a negative experience with blueprints where they're like, oh, like I wasted my day and what the heck, like that, I'm so upset or blah, blah, blah. First off, you have infinite days, right? So don't need to worry about wasting one day, just draft better the next day. As long as you learn, that's better. But more importantly and more relevantly to the observatory, this is a day where you can draft it and say, I did something. I'm improving.
That is true. Yeah.
I'm improving the rest of my future days, which I think is really nice. As you said, they're pretty minor at first, but they scale, which is really cool. Yeah, you absolutely, just like laboratory. In fact, I'd probably put a little higher than lab because both of these are a great use of a gem, right? They're going to give you some resources. And in the case of the observatory, it's a fun one to keep scaling up. So yeah, really great room. Next up is the office. This is a room that costs 2 gems. That is a steep cost, but the upside of it is that you can spread coins throughout all of your rooms. What do you think of the office?
Okay, the office. Wow, 2 gems is a little pricey for an L room, but you do get to spread gold, which spreading is obviously better the more rooms you have because it just spreads gold wherever you have rooms, at least a chance to. I don't think it's that good. 2 gems for an L room that kind of doesn't really do too much is a little difficult to stomach, but it does turn on an aspect of the game which we've been harping on is hard to get going, which is the coin side, like spending money. And this will give you a lot of gold, which will let you spend money and actually use Commissary, use Kitchen, use other shops that are a little bit more rare. So in that scenario, it's good. I don't think it's that amazing though, because 2 gems is really steep.
Yeah, I'm going to chime in and say this is a room that I think has some fun combos with other rooms, maybe even rooms that we don't have listed right here. I'm not super high on it. 2 gems is extremely steep. It is only one extra direction. The coin spreading is cool, but you also need steps if you want to actually pick up all the coins, if you don't have a good way to utilize other abilities. So yeah, I think I'd probably put it in C tier.
I had it in B, but
it's just the 2 gems, right?
2 gems is a lot for it.
2 gems. And again, we're only rating this in terms of how big of a room can you build. Obviously, so many rooms, even those in C tier, have some pretty cool uses as well. But yeah, I think office is it's rough. In fact, I'd probably put it maybe closer here. 2 gems is rough. Next up is the pantry. This is an L shape that gives you 4 coins, and you're guaranteed an apple or banana, so a few extra steps as well. What do you think of the pantry?
Pantry is just a nice, solid, good room. Now, the +4 coins seems really good and powerful, but like I said, most times you're not going to have enough coins to actually matter. And this will help, but it's like a red herring because you're like, oh, wow, 4 gems or 4 coins. That's really powerful, but you probably don't have somewhere to spend it. And even if you don't have it enough, it will help you get to a good thing, but you need something else with it most times to be able to spend the 4 coins. I still think it's really powerful. It's a free L-shaped room that has a couple of steps in there where you can eat some food. I think it's B tier.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think B tier is perfect for it because even 4 coins just on its own you're not really buying anything that powerful with just 4 coins. So even
but it helps you get there.
It does help you get there. Absolutely.
And you're probably drafting this every day, honestly, because it's a commonplace room. You see it a lot, and an L-shaped room, and it's just a good room. A lot of the times that is free.
Totally, yeah. It's a pretty steep difference. The difference between it and like a Nook, for example, which is a similar shape that gives you a key. But still, it is a nice room. You get a little extra steps too from eating some foods. It's solid. I think B tier is perfect for it. All right, next up is the parlor room. This is a L shape as well. If you solve the puzzle correctly, you get 2 gems. The rules are as follows. Exactly 1 of the chests is guaranteed to be true. Exactly 1 is guaranteed to be false. And can you make it happen? What do you think of the parlor room?
Parlor room, L-shaped room, free. It's pretty amazing. You do have to solve the puzzle to get the 2 gems, but you should, if you spend some time in it and you kind of logic it out, it's really doable, especially early on. I think it's amazing. +2 gems for free. and another door is what you're looking for. I think it's S easily.
Yeah, I agree with you. Even if you're not great at the logic puzzles, I think there's a fun to them. They might be frustrating for some players, but I personally enjoy them. And I think that just the meta of solving one of these little puzzles is actually something that I actively look forward to each day. Just know that the game knows that if you're not solving them correctly, the game will start to feed you easier ones. So hopefully you'll eventually get there. And if you're really good at them, you'll start to get some more difficult ones too, which is kind of fun.
And if you're playing blueprints, you probably like puzzles, so you probably like this room.
Exactly.
And worst case, it's like 1/3 chance to get 2 gems for free, so that's not that bad.
Yeah, you can at least logic through some of it.
And yeah, most times you can at least be like, okay, it's 50-50. So at least most times it's worst case 50-50, get 2 gems, which is like a gem every time you do it.
And honestly, this is funny to think about, but I think even like an L-shaped room that's just straight up a 50-50 chance of getting 2 gems, 50-50 chance of nothing, I think that's still better than pantries. Like it's a funny, like,
100%.
2 gems is great, right? 2 gems is very, very good. So yeah, I love the parlor. I'm glad we agree. Passageway is a really fun and interesting one. This is another 2-gem hallway, but it is a complete cross spread. It is all 4 doors being open. What do you think of the passageway?
Passageway is a very, very, what's the word?
Polarizing
room. A lot of people love it. A lot of people really dislike this room for the steep gem cost. 2 is really prohibitive. Most times you won't have to, or if you do have to, it'll wipe you clean, which is a big downside because yeah, you get 3 extra doors, best case scenario, but if it puts you down to 0 gems, you're really limited on the rooms you can draft from it. So are you really getting like the max value of the 3 doors? You're not really. I still think it's pretty good. I have come down on it lately. I used to draft this almost every time I had 2 gems and it would give me three doorways, but I've definitely come down on it. I think the 2 gem cost is really prohibitive. You probably want to save gems for other places so you don't just get dead-ended in a random spot because you're forced to draft an L room in a wrong place or just a dead end in a bad spot. I don't know. What do you think?
If I can chime in, I think early game, Passageway is probably not the most exciting if you don't have a lot of resources, because as you said, 2 gems is a lot. And you made a really great point about the quality of the rooms that you're going to be building off of them, not necessarily being the greatest. If you have exactly 2 gems and you go down to 0, that can be tricky. I'm still pretty high on the room only because having the full T spread is excellent. There is no chance of getting any extra items, right? What you see is what you get with this passageway. I think it's still very good. I'm down to go a little bit down on it, considering this is made for newer players who are maybe still trying to get things going. But I think for players who have really wet their teeth into what the game is and have started to figure out ways to get resources, I think they love the passageway. And I think passageway is another room where later in the ranks, you're going to really benefit from it. I feel like sometimes as you go more north, you're pretty limited in terms of your positioning. So being able to open everything up right again as you're maybe on rank 5 or 6 or 7 is really excellent. I'd like to put it in A tier. I could see a world where it's B tier, but I think it's an A. I don't know.
I guess we put in B then, because I'm waffling between C and B.
Interesting.
That's what I'm saying. This is a really polarizing room.
It is super polarizing.
I think the newer you are to the game, the more you like this room because you really are scarred by just getting dead-ended and not having enough doorways. And just seeing 3 doorways is really, you're just like, yes, okay, I want 3 more doors. But most times you're only gonna get 2 doors out of this. It's really hard to put it in a spot where like you're getting the max 3. And if you're not getting the max 3 doors, I think it's a really bad room.
That's true. That is a good point. In the later ranks, it's pretty likely these are going to be locked doors, right? Do you have the keys and do you have the gems to really maximize the value? It is not the easiest to maximize the value of, which I think is a fair point, because even in a world where you get all 4 slots, the quality of those rooms are going to be lower.
But I think if you're an early player, if you can get all 3 doorways like open, I don't hate it. Yeah. I think
I can live with B. I can live with B.
Yeah, I can see like a low B tier.
Yeah, and actually it's fun that there are rooms like this that are so polarizing. We have a friend who's like one of the big playtesters of this game. He hates this room, so it's a funny thing to sort of get the spread there. I think B is fun because
yeah, I'd probably C tier, but I could see like just three doorways is good.
Yeah.
If you need it, you need it.
But yeah, this is a fun one to have a debate with. I think Passageway could almost have its own video, its own short, debating the pros and cons of it. What a fun room. All right, next up is the patio. This is an L shape right here. It does cost a gem, but it is going to spread a gem into each of your green rooms. So it basically always gives you a rebate. What do you think of the patio?
Patio. It's a decent room. The spread is nice. Yeah, it basically gives you a gem back almost not every time. You're not guaranteed, but you're really likely. So it's kind of free. It's just the upfront cost of having to have a gem to draft it. There's dirt spots most times. You can even get some items. It's pretty good room, I think. That's like a B tier.
Yeah, I think that sounds exactly right.
And if you have a lot of green rooms, it's really good.
Yeah, that's a fun payoff, right? Because green rooms need gems. So that's a great way to fuel more green rooms and make it happen. Yeah, I'm with you. Patio is a cool one. All right, next up is the Rumpus Room. This does cost a gem. It gives you 8 coins, which is a very good amount of them. What do you think of the Rumpus Room?
Costing a gem is a little expensive, but straight shot rooms are like not that common. 8 is definitely enough to buy stuff, especially in the commissary, especially in the kitchen. I think it's really good. The gem obviously is really is kind of prohibitive, but like
Yeah, 8 coins is almost enough. Like,
exactly,
it's
it's
worth more
it's
than a gem.
worth. Yeah, I'll just say Alzara is in there.
Oh god,
He's right there, so it's not really too much of a spoiler.
we're mostly focused on building the biggest house, but like I'm drafting the Rumpus Room literally every time I see it because of Alzara.
Get some Alzara. Alzara will help.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He's got some stuff to tell you.
Oh yeah. Where would you put the Rumpus Room?
That's a good question. Probably B.
So, yeah, man. It's funny because I just have so much love for Alzara and so much love for what he is. You really should draft him every time you can. I don't think I've ever passed up on a Rumpus Room.
If you're drafting it just for Alzara, yes, draft it every single time. But if you're drafting it for like, I want to make my house bigger, sometimes you don't have a kitchen, sometimes you don't have a commissary, the coins do nothing, so then you're spending a gem to basically just have a straight shot. So I think it's good at B.
Would you give it the A for Alzara, or you think
I'd probably S it for Alzara.
don't you dare pass up on this room, new players. We might not be giving it the S, but we're definitely giving it A for Alzara. All right, next up is the security room. This does cost a gem. It's a T shape, and it doesn't actually tell you where exactly the items are, but it does tell you that some items are missing when you log onto the computer, and it also lets you change the security door frequency. You can make them more likely or more rare, and you can even make them so that if the power is off, that the security doors can be bypassed. There are security doors that have a chance of showing up way more likely in the later ranks, just like locked rooms. A normal key won't work with them, but if you have the security card or if you have the security room to help, play around with them, you can sort of bypass them. So they're a pretty interesting mechanic. What do you think of the security room?
Security room, T-shape, cost a gem, but like pretty useful. There's a lot of things you can do, and a lot of runs will just end because you opened a room and there's 2 security doors or 1 security door, you don't have a way to open it, and you're like, I have 5 keys, no way to open it. You could have gone to a security room, you could have turned it to low, the frequency, so you didn't see these security rooms as much. I think it's really powerful. I think I have to S it. This is what you want to spend your gems on, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a T-shaped room. And as you said, it's cool that you can kind of play with the knob, right? If you don't have a key card or the ability to play around with those locked doors, set them to low so that you don't see them. As soon as you get them, it's amazing to turn them to high, right? Those are essentially totally free doors for you, especially as you move forward. And it's a T-shape. So yeah, I'm with you. S for security. Awesome room. All right, next up is the spare room. This is a spare room.
It's a spare room. It's just a straight room. Doesn't cost anything. You're not really going to get anything in it. There's usually no items in this room. So it's literally just
a spare room.
A spare room. I know a friend would probably put this in S. They love it. But it's basically just a corridor. I put it right next to corridor. It's like slightly worse, but it's basically the same thing most times. So it's hard to move it away from the corridor.
I could see giving it C, only because I don't think I personally have ever seen an item from it. And at least the corridor has the chance of being unlocked when you draft it later. And I think our friend would give it S for spare room just because it's just a fun thematic room. I don't know that he's like, he would give it the S for the gameplay. I'm kind of leaning C myself.
I just think it's basically a corridor. So if we're putting corridor in B.
See, this is funny because I was thinking corridor is like a C, but it gets like a little buff.
You think that buff is enough to put it into B tier? If it was so close, I could see bumping it, but I don't think it's, I don't know. I could see C tier for both corridor. I'm down to dump corridor down. Yeah, C for corridor. I like it.
Yeah, I think that's true. And you're right. It is great if you can get the unlocked door from the corridor, but you really shouldn't play around it. You shouldn't feel bad if you see it early. You should be
it's just really nice if you see it later.
All right, next up is the storeroom. This is a dead end that gives you a key, a gem, and a coin, and actually sometimes another 4th item as well. Sometimes you can get lucky there. What do you think of the storeroom?
It's basically a closet where if you just discount the 1 coin, which usually does nothing, it's basically just a closet that you're guaranteed to get a gem and a key, which that's kind of what you're looking for, especially really early on. I think it's really good. Question is it better than closet or worse than closet?
Yeah, I'm personally higher on it than closet, I think, because sometimes you just get like a not great item from the closet. There are a lot of items that are like do nothings, but the chance of you getting a great item from the closet is interesting. And the closet often does give you a key or a gem too. So
Yeah, the question is,
it's interesting.
if you had these both in a nice dead end spot and you're choosing between both of them, what would you rather do? Early, I think you'd rather storeroom early, just getting. Actually, no, it's close.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe you go closet early because maybe you get like a lucky rabbit's foot, or maybe you get a shovel and you're like, okay, now it's a green day. So they can kind of determine what the rest of your day is going to look like, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, it depends. Obviously, some days you're going to be really flush on keys and it's not going to be that great. But most of the times, this is what's getting you to that flush point. I think it's next to closet. The question is,
is it higher or lower?
It's higher or lower. I think it's more consistent. But most times, closet's just going to be worse than a storeroom.
Yeah, because for every metal detector and lucky rabbit's foot, there's a salt shaker or there's like a coin purse or something.
Yeah.
It's interesting. More variance for sure.
Yeah.
Which probably makes the closet more fun, but I think storeroom is probably a little better if you had to pick. But frankly, you should draft both of them. These are dead ends that are going to give you the resources you need to make it to the end game. And obviously, getting rid of your dead ends is an important skill in drafting. So they're both important. I think most days, in fact, I might even wager every day I draft both of these rooms.
Yeah, you're really happy to see both of these on most days because they get you the items that you need to continue the day.
Yeah. All right. Next up is the Terrace. This is a dead end. Green rooms do not cost a gem to draft. It's free and it makes your green rooms free.
It makes all your green rooms from then on no gem cost. So Terrace it's hard to put this somewhere. I think you put this in B tier because it does turn on, if you get it early, it turns on all your green rooms and it makes the prohibitive cost of, the main thing about green rooms is like they cost a gem. So it's really hard to like spend a lot of gems on your green rooms. Like the Courtyard would be easy S if it didn't cost a gem. And the Terrace turns that on. The question is, you have to draft the Terrace. It's dead end. It kind of does nothing by itself. And then you have to get lucky enough to find other green rooms.
I really wish it were an L shape. I find green rooms are not the easiest thing to draft because a lot of them are dead ends. You can't just draft them anywhere in the house. It's tough. I don't personally love the Terrace that much, but it is a cool build around me.
It's good if you see it early and like you can't afford to just dead end where you see it, which is not very likely.
Yeah.
Most times you want to just keep going. I don't know. It's a really powerful effect. Is it worth just dead ending a certain area of your house?
I had a really fun run the other day where I was so happy that my aquarium was free because my aquarium was a green room that did not cost a gem. So there's fun little things there. They're few and far between, certainly. Really wish this were an L shape. It's to me, it's very similar to greenhouse in that like it's a dead end. It's just a little awkward in that regard.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to draft both Terrace and Greenhouse early. And you want to be drafting both of them early. So that's like the downside. Like, because you want to draft the Terrace, then you want to draft the Greenhouse to be able to see more green rooms and then get value off that. But
off the top of my head, you would know better than me. I feel like it's pretty likely to get an item.
You are almost guaranteed an item here. Now, The item quality is not the best. You can get a gem or you can just get like some fruit. I think you can maybe get like a shovel, but like really rare. Most times you're getting like a fruit or a gem. So it's not bad in that scenario. But yeah, this one's tough. I don't know. I think the effect's really powerful and you really like it when you see it, but it's really like the dead end that it gives you is really like prohibitive. I think like I could see like high C tier, low B tier for sure.
I think C. I don't know if I would go B personally. I'd go high C.
Yeah, I like a high C.
Near the top of C, I think.
That's fine.
Next up is the pool. This does cost a gem. It's a T shape, and it adds 2 other rooms that I guess we don't have in our pool right here. They are technically unusual rooms. You're right. You get the locker room, the pump room,
and the
sauna. All of which are pretty great, frankly. So it's a room that sort of chains into other rooms. What do you think of the pool?
A T room costs a gem, gives you 3 pretty good rooms. Yeah, I think it's pretty amazing. I think you want to draft it most times. This is what you're looking for. I think it's A.
Yeah, I think it's pretty similar to like Lab and Observatory. You don't always get the value from them, but I really love the pool because even at baseline, right, a gem for a T shape is still pretty decent. And then maybe you get a sauna to make your next day better. You can find some other cool uses for these other rooms. So it's a fun one. I like the pool a lot.
Yeah, pool's good. Draft it.
All right, next up is the utility closet. This is an interesting one. It's a dead end. You open up the breaker box, and the breaker box is super straightforward. You can turn off and on the security doors. You can turn on the lights at the dark room. You can turn off the lights at the gym. There's some cool stuff in here. What do you think about the utility closet?
Utility closet is a room that it's really hard to talk about without spoiling it. But like you said, it's pretty straightforward. You can see that it combos with certain rooms that it'll tell you. the key card system, which works with the security. So you can use that if you combo them together. You can get through some security doors. You can turn the dark room on after it goes dark, which negates its effect. Then it just becomes a normal room. So that makes dark room better. Yeah, it is a dead end that kind of, if you only draft that and there's no combos with it, it is a dead end that does nothing, but it does help you do a lot of stuff. So it's very hard to place this.
I agree. I agree.
Especially in this format of what we're talking about.
In the wider context of the game, it's even better. I think B tier. I don't know.
I think B tier. You should be drafting this. It's a dead end. If you see it.
Worse than Closet and Storeroom.
Worse than Closet and Storeroom, probably, unless you really need its effect. But you are going to do way better drafting this room more often than not.
Here's a fun question for you, just in the blind. If you get an early utility closet without seeing much more of your house, do you like to turn off or on the security rooms?
That is a good question. I turn them off.
Same.
Just because you want to be drafting security when you see it anyways, because it's such a good room.
And then you have the easy combo.
Sometimes it will mess with you because you get a key card and you can't use it. You can't use your key card if you turned off the power. And if you don't see security room, you can't turn it from offline.
Yeah, but I feel the same as you. And I think you're way more likely to see a security room than you are to see a key card. All right, next up is the walk-in closet. This costs you a gem, but it gives you 4 items. What do you think of that?
Walk-in closet. Now, this, you probably want to be drafting this. You're spending a gem to get 4 items, which will probably get the gem back, and you get 3 other items is really, really, really powerful, I think. I think it's a very good. I could see this even A tier, I think, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Again, you touched upon it perfectly. Very likely you get a rebate. Oftentimes you profit on gems. Those 4 items are great. It's just a better spread of stuff than the closet or the storeroom. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm actually pretty happy putting it in A tier.
Yeah, definitely like a really powerful dead end that you want to be using when you see it.
Yep, absolutely. And then last but not least is the West Wing, which I think we can agree is an S tier based off the hallway and the East Wing. So yeah, do you have any final thoughts on any of these placements? Anything that seems off or odd as we're taking our final pass here?
Looks pretty decent.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of is maybe bringing the aquarium back to A, but considering it doesn't do that much more.
The aquarium at B, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's like good room, and like the more payoffs you have of it, there's certain lab experiments that want you to draft red rooms or bedrooms, and then it's really good in that.
That's a great, we weren't able to touch upon that earlier, but that's a really great point. Aquarium is a ton of fun with laboratories. There's a lot of ways to chain off of it, especially because it's technically a shop as well without it actually.
I could see putting it in A because it is just a tea room, and we're putting most tea rooms up in A just because they're so powerful. But it just costs a gem that kind of does nothing. It's just like a tea room that costs a gem.
Yeah, you don't have it built around me otherwise.
Yeah, I could see moving like the West Wing halls and East Wing halls down just because like they're a little bit more rare. They're harder to draft, but they are just free tea rooms that you probably are just drafting them as soon as you see them. I think Nursery at S, but I'll die on that hill, but it's fine.
Nursery and Passageway were the most polarizing, which is kind of fun. So if you are watching this in the comments, you watched all the way to the end, thank you very much. I would love to know what you think of Passageway and Nursery, and if you think if there are any other rooms in particular that we're way off on. Again, with the vantage point of trying to keep spoilers low, mostly just trying to build a bigger house. Obviously, almost all these rooms have some extra uses that get even better as you keep progressing through the game. But again, thanks for watching this video. Check out some of our other guides and some other fun stuff, considering Blueprints is such a great game. Thank you, Shagraz, our lead playtester, joining us for some great stuff there. And yeah, we'll see you next time, Scouts.
Hoop.